Hello again, friends. Welcome back to the Flying Cloud Zen YouTube channel's videos. I am Busho Lan, and I want to talk with you a little bit today about the basics of creating the meditation habit, right? Pretty introductory stuff, and yet it is a stage of practice that we all go through. In fact, I guess we could say it's the one stage of practice that we literally all have to go through, the Dharma gate that we all walk through. Just the interest in meditation turning into an actual habit, a habit of regular practice. What does that look like? Well, a lot of folks have a lot of opinions about this, and I am just one of those voices. So I encourage you to do some research on your own about what kind of conventional wisdom looks like in trying to create a new meditation habit. But I would actually advise starting by paying attention and thinking back to your own experience in creating habit. When in your life have you needed to create a new habit of activity? And what has been really helpful for you in creating a new habit of activity, right? If you had an injury that you're recovering from and you had to do physical therapy exercises every day, right? When the dental hygienist finally got through to you and you thought, all right, I'll do it. I'm going to floss every single day. I'm going to create that new habit. Getting in the habit of paying bills when you were younger and had to start doing that. Car maintenance, relationship structure when we're in intimate relationship with roommates or friends or romantic partners or whatever, creating the habits that we create in relating to others, right? Setting aside time to be sure that we do things to help care for ourselves. So kind of spend a little time thinking, what has worked well for me? Historically, what has really worked well for me in creating a new habit? And I'll share with you some of kind of the conventional wisdom that I've been exposed to, things that have worked for me over the years. And then you can kind of temper them, adjust them as need be, and bring in whatever other voices you want. The beginning, I think, is just acknowledging that you have an interest in doing it. It sounds like a funny thing to say, but anybody who's even taking time out of their day to watch a video like you are right now on creating a meditation habit has a little fire inside of them, right? A little flame of interest. Bodhicitta, we call that in Buddhism, way-seeking mind. There's a little spark there of, ooh, I wonder what that is. And if we're actually debating, how do I turn my intellectual curiosity, my interest, into a behavior, there's got to be a little bit of a fire there, right? A little bit of a fire to turn ideas into action. So I encourage you to connect with that energy in you. Connect with that fire. What is that about? What is that about? There are no wrong answers to that question. But am I just curious? That's a great reason to start meditating. I wonder what goes on in my thoughts. I want to get closer to myself. That's a great reason. Maybe the advice of a partner or a therapist or a doctor or a friend. Maybe the desire for calm, for more peace, for more self-awareness. Maybe it's part of a spiritual longing, a spiritual impulse that you feel in yourself, wanting to go more deeply into the experience of being alive. Maybe you're driven to meditation by great suffering. A lot of us walk through the door of great suffering. It's very common. But regardless, to actually feel the energy within you and go, there is energy within me that is wanting to be manifest, that is actually wanting to be manifest through the behavior of taking a posture, setting a timer, and doing an activity that we call meditation. Feeling that in yourself, I think, is important. And I'm starting there because I think it's easy to have the idea of taking on a new habit start from the outside. And that's fine if it starts that way. But kind of like the dental hygienist voice in your head, you're supposed to floss, you're supposed to floss, you're supposed to floss. That only has a certain amount of motivational energy for us, right? It's actually a pretty small gas tank. It can be a great place to start, but until I'm internally motivated, that doesn't have long legs. That's not going to last. I'm going to run out of motivation there if it's just externally. if I'm just externally motivated. So being aware, getting in tune, getting in touch with the part of you that's deeply curious, that aspires, maybe that wants to know, or that feels like you're responding to a longing, a sacred longing that comes from maybe a place that you don't even understand. Wow. To just feel that energy seems really important. Right? So, more practically speaking, at the beginning, setting up a meditation practice, it really is like setting up any other habit, any other new behavior. It's just a question of kind of self-discipline, sort of just making sure that the spirit of repetition is there, that we do it, that we do it, that we do it, that we do it. And it takes a few weeks. What do they say? 21 days, 28 days, a month, something like that, to actually create a new kind of habit, a new way of being. And of course, it continues far beyond that for most of us. But at the beginning, it's really just a question of frequency, regularity, just making ourselves do it. So some pieces of advice that seem to have been helpful to me that I'll pass along to you is, depending on your circumstance, the details of your life, if you are able to do your meditation in the same place, the same physical space, at the same time every day, that's really helpful in just creating that idea of a rhythm, right? Every day the alarm goes off, I get up, I go brush my teeth, I do my sitting, and then I have my breakfast and I go about my day. Just that like same time, same place. There's that corner of the room, right, where my cushion is, or my prayer bench, or my meditation chair, my mat. That's where I'm going to do it. So I've got a space dedicated to it. If your living space allows you to actually have even a small space that's actually dedicated to just that one activity, that's a fantastic blessing. A lot of us don't have that freedom, but if you can actually dedicate even a corner of a room to this is the meditation space, hugely helpful. Sounds like a small thing, but it's actually not. If I can have a visual reminder as I'm moving about my space throughout the day, that is the spot for that activity. And so even seeing it peripherally, there's the cushion, there's the chair, there's my little altar, right? Even when I'm not physically in it, there it is. There's something kind of symbolically powerful, I think, psycho-spiritually powerful about physically making space in your life, literally, for an activity that you value. So again, not all of us are able to do that, but if you can, that's hugely helpful. So same time, if it's possible, same place if it's possible. For some of us, it's really helpful to tie it to a pre-existent pattern. If I'm already used to doing something at the same day at the same time, then just adding meditation before or after that just makes it easier. So I mentioned like get up, brush your teeth, do the meditation. Like I already have a ritual that I go through in the morning. I already have a ritual I go through before I go to bed, perhaps. I already have a ritual I do during the noon hour when it's time for my lunch, whatever that is for you. If there's a way of saying, oh, I can add some time, boom, boom, in one of those places that's already kind of structured to insert some time for meditation. That might be helpful, right? Because you've already got a pattern around those things. And at the beginning, it's really helpful to start small. Start small. Consistency is way more important than length. At the beginning, especially, that is true. And I know that that's true about a lot of different habits, but a 40-minute meditation period once a week isn't nearly as helpful for us as 10 minutes every day or whatever. Frequency, consistency is way more important than length. So some of the, one of the ways of talking about that is sit at the beginning for whatever length of time is relatively doable for you, relatively easy, right? And that might literally be like 5 minutes. If you've never done this before, you've never done it before. And so your body isn't used to sitting still and doing nothing while paying attention, right? We're all used to sitting still and doing while we're watching TV, watching a movie, while we're typing, while we're on our computer, while we're at work. But meditation, it invites us into a different way of paying attention to something, right? And most of us start with awareness of body and breath. And so even to be present in a body that's not moving, that's not doing anything, and isn't distracted by outside stimuli for even 5 minutes sitting in silence is kind of a big ask, right? So gentle is really important. And starting small fits the spirit, I think, of being gentle. So we start with whatever's easy. Like, I know I can sit for 5 minutes without getting too wigged out, right? So then I'm going to set my timer for 5 minutes. And I'll do that. And I'll do it again tomorrow. And then I'll do it again the next day. And now after a while, 5 minutes, and it won't take long. 5 minutes starts feeling pretty doable, right? Those first few days, that might feel like a stretch, or 10 minutes or 15 minutes, whatever's comfortable, is right at the edge of what we can handle at the beginning. But we develop our legs pretty quickly. And all of a sudden, the 5, 10, 15 minutes that was really a stretch at the beginning is pretty doable. It's pretty doable. So there, now the conventional wisdom is whatever's easy plus 5. I'm going to set my timer for whatever's easy plus 5. Right? So if sitting for 10 minutes, sitting for 15 minutes is easy. That I can do that, no problem. Then I'm going to set my timer for 15 or for 20. And so the wisdom behind what's easy plus 5 is that it's not whatever's easy plus 30, right? Or whatever's easy plus 30 seconds. It's whatever is easy plus about 5. And you don't have to be literal around 5, but the spirit there is we want to lean into that growing edge. We just want to lean into that growing edge, right? It's like reps at the gym. You know, the first 5 that are really easy, that's awesome, but the muscle isn't getting stronger yet. It's those last 5 where you can feel it, right? And the burn is happening. Now the muscle is being pushed, it's being stretched, it's being asked to go to its limit. And we all know those are the 5 where the muscle is beginning to actually get stronger. It's right at capacity, right? So the implication there isn't sit until you're twitching and sweating and can barely stand it. Please don't do that. The metaphor only goes so far. But the idea of leaning into resistance is extremely important for us as meditators, right? If those first 15 minutes are easy for me, and the last 5, I start to notice my restlessness. I start to notice my frustration. My thoughts start to change. My emotions start to change because I'm getting closer to my comfort. I'm getting out of my comfort zone. Those 5 minutes are going to show me a tremendous amount about me, right? What comes up when I experience resistance? What comes up in me when I'm getting closer to my edge, right? I'm going to learn a huge amount about myself in those last 5 minutes of just leaning into that edge, right? Those first 15 that are easy, probably less insight, probably not too much to see there, pretty easy. But when things start to get a little, then I'm starting to see different layers of myself. Oh, one of the things that meditation is designed to do. I want to see what's underneath. I want to get to know little layers of myself. I want to get closer to this experience of being alive, right? So that's pretty good advice, I think. Whatever's easy plus 5. Well, you can try that out. And of course, it only goes so far. I would never sit for longer than 40 minutes or something like that, probably. That's as long as is helpful. The body needs to move with a certain amount of frequency. So somewhere between 30 and 40 minutes is usually what you'll see at a meditation center, depending on the type of meditation and depending on the tradition and stuff. Usually somewhere between 20 and 40 is pretty standard. Most meditation centers are going to be closer to the 30, 40 range. But that gives you a sense of where you might want to have some comfort in being able to do, but I wouldn't go beyond that, really. So that's something to explore. Another thing to think about that a lot of people really swear by is the commitment to sit. And if you're watching this video, I can assume that you have a commitment to sit, or at least an interest in trying to create the habit of sitting. Let's say you want to do that for a month. I'm going to do it every day for a month because that's how long it takes to create a habit. And so I'm going to do it for a month. It's good at the very outset to acknowledge that if you decide to do this every day for 28 days, chances are it won't actually be 28 consecutive days. And I say that because of life. right? The thing we all know. Oh my goodness, there's going to be an illness in the family, or a pet that needs to go to the vet, or a, a, a weekend travel trip for work that we didn't see coming, or something is going to happen that we didn't foresee, that we couldn't have foreseen, that's going to interrupt our schedule enough that the sitting just couldn't happen, right? So if I'm committed to sitting every day for 28 days, yes, I want to do that. And perhaps that happens, but more realistically, I'm probably going to get 25, 26, or 27 of those days. Acknowledging that from the beginning gives you just a little bit of breathing space. I'm offering that not to take it easy on all of us, although that's nice, but because meditation mind, the mind that we are cultivating, is about being with the circumstance that is arising as it is, as it's arising. This is how it actually is. What I'm describing is kind of the opposite of all or nothing, rigid patterns, criticism, and judgment. Do you sort of see that? It's about, oh, this is the way that this is now. I'm not talking about floppy, loosey-goosey, anything goes, blah, because that's not meditation. Meditation is attentiveness. Pay attention. It is happening. Focus, right? But that doesn't have to come from a place of rigidity, black and whiteness, you know, in our thinking and in our perceptions, and all of the attendant judgment and criticism that comes with that state of mind. So just knowing, yeah, my goal is to sit every day for a month, and I hit 25 out of the 28 days. That feels really good to me. That feels just really, really good to me. You know? And on those days, on the days when you can't do it, when you just can't, you got a cold or a flu, or you're at the airport, or whatever the thing is, you can't do it that day. You just plain can't. My advice is a little strange, but my advice is, again, if you are able, go to the cushion, to your space, right? Go to your chair, your bench, wherever it is you sit, go to your space and sit down, and then stand back up again. But physically go through the motions, go through the ritual activity of going to your space and saying, it can't happen today. I can't make it. My day is crazy. I don't feel well. The cat is in the vet, whatever the deal is. I can't make it today, but I remember my commitment to myself, to my practice, is unchanged. And there is something powerful about physically making, encouraging, inviting yourself to go through the ritual of physically sitting down in your space and going, I'm still here. I remember, couldn't happen today, but I'll catch you tomorrow. Thank you. Stand back up again. Right? Everything I just described takes literally 30 seconds, right? Or a minute tops. So everybody has time for that. No excuses. Of course we all have time for that. I might not have time for a 30-minute sitting, but I certainly have time for 30 seconds. And by physically making ourselves go to that space and say, I will sit down, there's a bigger expressed relationship, a more devoted expressed relationship with ourselves and with our practice than if we just mentally go, oh, I forgot today. Oh, well, I'll do it tomorrow. It's the very same thing, but by making the body go through a motion to express, yep, I forgot today, but I will do it tomorrow. There's a very, very different energy there. So I invite you to try that. If that doesn't work for you, pitch it. But I've done that for a long, long time, and I find it very powerful. On the days when I can't sit, I just physically go to my cushion, I take it out, I sit down and go, I'm here. I stand back up again, put my cushion away, and off I go. There's power to that. So I invite you to try that. I invite you to try that. The other thing that seems to work for some people, and again, certainly for myself, is to add a ritual element to your sitting. Now, this gets a little more personal because this landscape really resonates with some people, and it really doesn't with others. But adding a ritual element, bowing to the cushion before we begin meditation, bowing away from the cushion before we begin, like we do in the Zen tradition, bowing at the end, doing a short chant before you're sitting, at the end of your sitting, having a small bench or an altar that's near or adjacent to your sitting space that has a candle on it, maybe, or a stick of incense that you want to burn, an image that you find represents your aspiration, or represents the part of you that you're most wanting to manifest, right? You've got a picture, you've got a little Buddha statue there, you've got a cross, you have a statue of Kuan Yin, you've got a photograph of your grandmother, or a picture of the mountain that so moved you when you were 10 years old and climbed a mountain for the first time, whatever that looks like, right? Flowers, sand from your favorite beach. Having a ritual objects, symbolic gestures, sights, sound, smells, right? Like candles and incense and that kind of stuff. Adding that dimension to meditation for a lot of people changes the way that they experience it, right? And again, for some people, not so much. For some people, that's actually anathema, because it's starting to feel like, now this is spiritual practice, it might even be religious practice, and perhaps we've been hurt in some ways by that type of setting. And so that would create a barrier for us. For those of us who don't have that, or who have less of that, adding a ritual element kind of does change the space that we are sitting in. It's reminding us that as much as meditation can be self-improvement, simply about lowering the heart rate, lowering the blood pressure, improving the posture, it's going to help me focus, and I can use that to become a better golfer, a better business person, a better driver. Yes, all those things are true. Yes, that's true. Adding ritual element for some of us reminds us that this is actually, although it includes self-improvement, it's actually much, much bigger than self-improvement. There's something much bigger wanting to be manifest in a meditation period, right? Awareness in human form, sitting upright, paying attention, being willing to be undefended for a period of time is a profoundly dignified and deeply meaningful activity. I think human beings recognize there's a nobility to a human being sitting in meditation. There's just something about it. Regardless of our faith tradition, regardless of our religious identity, regardless of any of that stuff, there's just something about a person willing to sit still and pay attention to what's real that is evocative for a lot of us. And so creating a ritual space, having ritual elements can remind us the activity that I'm taking part in is actually really, really big. It's bigger even than me, right? I'm stepping into a long lineage that goes thousands of years into the future and thousands of years into the past of human beings being courageous enough to sit upright in a sacred space and say, I will pay attention, right? So maybe experiment with adding a ritual element, maybe a bow at the beginning, maybe the bow at the end. Choose the ringtone on your timer carefully. Choose a bell that evokes something for you, right? Debate having a little altar or image or candle or something with you to remind you of that dimension of your life. That's just kind of an idea. And then finally, this is the last one I'll leave you with, is retreats. Now, I'm talking about creating a meditation habit. So that's kind of just the day-to-day, plugging it in, getting that 15 minutes, ticking the box and going, yes, I did it. But I want to mention retreats at the very end of my little talk here, because those daily dips into silence, those little daily connections that we experience with ourselves, hugely important, right? That's the routine. That's pedaling, right? A foot stroke to keep the bicycle of our practice upright. Hugely important, indispensable. And yet, in 10 minutes, 15 minutes, even 30 or 40 minutes, for the most part, we're only able to touch a certain amount of stillness because it's a relatively short amount of time. It's not a bad thing, it's a good thing. But as soon as you feel you're able to stretch yourself just a bit and join in a longer retreat, I highly recommend doing that. And when I say longer retreat, I mean 3 hours, 6 hours, 1 day, a weekend. There's a million different meditation centers, and there's a whole bunch of different resources available to you. Here at Flying Cloud, we do Zazen Kai, which is like 3 hours, usually once a month or so, most months of the year. 1 day retreats are increasingly popular. not only here at Flying Cloud, but at almost all the Dharma centers, the Buddhist centers that I'm aware of. And those are usually 8 hours, 8 or 9 hours, something like that. And then of course, weekend retreats and stuff like that, that it gets longer and longer. The wisdom there being, it's a longer immersion. And so we're able to settle more deeply. We just are, right? It's not a guarantee. We don't know what's going to happen to us during any sitting, let alone a retreat, but to really give it an honest try, to allow, as hour after hour after hour passes in silence, to really begin to see the deeper layers of our heart, is a beautiful gift. And a lot of us are kind of longing at the beginning for sort of the fruits of meditation practice, right? We want the thing that we kind of signed up to get, if that makes sense, whether that's a stiller mind or to see deeper layers of ourselves or to experience some spaciousness or whatever that looks like. And longer retreats, I think it's fair to say, give us a better chance of actually experiencing that than just the day-to-day sitting. So the day-to-day sitting is the crucial groundwork, crucial groundwork, crucial groundwork. We can't do without it. But those dips that we take into retreat containers, even a few hours, can show us stuff that daily sitting can't, and gives us a taste, oftentimes, of the thing that we're looking for kind of more deeply. So I really, really recommend that. And the chances are you're ready for a retreat way before you think you're ready for a retreat. That seems like what everybody says. When will I be ready? You're ready, you're fine. If you can sit without going completely nuts for 30 minutes, you're fine. You can do a retreat, right? Every sitting is different. Every retreat is different. So we're able to do it more often than we think we are. All right. I appreciate your attention. Thank you for listening. I hope this has been helpful for you. As I said at the beginning, there's lots of wisdom, lots of advice out there on creating a new habit. Much of it would apply to meditation. And if you've got further questions or things I've forgotten, advice, let me know. Add them in the comments section. I'm always available to talk with folks or email with folks. My contact information is easy to find on the Flying Cloud Zen website, flyingcloudzen.org. Thank you, folks. Happy meditation, and I hope to see you here soon. Blessings to you.